Okay, we would like to welcome you to our City Council work meeting. It is Thursday, May 22nd. We're having some technical difficulties, so hopefully you'll be able to hear us and see us. If not, then this meeting is being recorded and you'll be able to listen to the audio after it is posted to our website. So we have some things to discuss tonight that we put on the agenda, and if we have time, we'll maybe talk about one more thing. So the first thing was our secondary water requirements, and Cole Allen, I had asked him about coming tonight, but he wasn't able to. So hopefully you've had time to look through this ordinance. The reason I wanted to talk about this in a work meeting, and then possibly later we'll think about changing our ordinance, because we've had some concerns in the past with us having the requirement that they have to be hooked up to pressurized secondary before we even give them a building permit. So I just wanted to discuss, and hopefully you've had a chance to look. And then there's also the point that if there's not even water available, that they have to either turn in their water shares or escrow the funds. And even if it's possibly not ever, we don't know, that there will actually be secondary water even available on that street, which has happened on 6700. And we also at the bottom have, if they violate this ordinance, it's a Class C misdemeanor, which again, so discussion. Anybody have a chance to look at it?
How is this different than what we currently have?
What did you say, Ryan?
How is this different than what we currently?
This is what we currently have.
Oh, well,
this is our current.
Okay,
Yes.
I was going to say, shouldn't we have this already?
No, we already
This
have
is it.
this. So that was just a discussion. If this is anything we ever feel like that should be changed. I know we've had a couple of developers that have approached the culinary water improvement and said, we really don't want to have to do the secondary. We had a developer come in and say if we do the zero-scaping and they're smaller lots, and so anyway.
So really it's been developers that have been concerned about this.
Well, but even if it's a single lot.
But I'm just wondering, who's actually approached you or whoever brought this up? Who actually approached us about this?
I've actually had a conversation brought to me from Hooper Culinary District stating that they probably had more water than they needed, and they would be able to supply some of the smaller lots with culinary water, and they would not be above looking into doing that. And I also believe they have in their bylaws written right now that they wouldn't provide culinary unless there was a secondary pressure available, but I believe they are going to remove that clause from their bylaws, that will no longer be. It hasn't been done yet, but they are looking into doing that because they figure there are instances where they would be able, they're in the business of selling water, and they have more culinary water right now than they need, basically.
I don't see how that can be.
And the thing, so what, just a simple rule of thumb that I learned a long time ago. What gives us water? There's three simple things that you have to have water. So number one is you have to have a water right. You have to have the right to either drill a well or you have a right to, the railroad had water rights all along the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about that was they bought all these water rights up, but there was no water. So you have to have a water right. There has to be water where you have the water right. And third, you have to have a way to get that water to where you can use it.
Mm-hmm.
If any one of those three things is missing, you do not have water. So, for example, with Hooper Water District, so they drilled that well in West Point, for example. I think most of us know where that is, just off 1800. Do we have water from that well?
They're not using it right now because they don't need it.
Well, but is there water there? Can they even pump it and get all the water they want?
No, we were told it's got too much sulfur in it.
They could filter it and use it.
And anyway, when they drilled it, it ended up not going. They had a problem with the drill line, and So they really, I think it was they thought it was a real good thing that it happened to be in the way of the West Davis corridor, or, that eventually they'll buy up that property as it moves into Weber County.
Is it in line with the corridors coming through?
Real close to that. At least that's what,
Yeah, 'cause I'm not exactly sure what
So-
the parameters are.
anyway, and then they just drilled these 2 last wells, and again, I don't know that they're, I don't know if they really found the quality of water.
I just
or
know what was relayed to me, that they were looking into being able to provide water to, obviously an acre lot, they're not gonna wanna do that, cause that wouldn't be cost
Right.
effective for the landowners. I'm not even sure, as you mentioned, the half-acre lot's not a small lot. That, I'm not sure that
Yeah.
would be, but patio homes, things like that have a lawn about the size of this table, they, I think, could probably supply water for that, and they're actually looking into potentially doing that and revising their bylaws to where it will not be mandatory anymore for somebody to have pressurized secondary, for them to provide culinary. It's not done yet, but they are looking into it to see if that makes sense.
And lastly and this is just what I heard, the meeting that was held at West Point, for that new development that wants to go in there. And so who's on the board? Isn't it Cole Allen?
Corey Green,
Wayne
Wayne
Hall.
Has-
Yeah.
And-
So
did somebody
anyway,
just
he
pass
said,
away? Wasn't there
There's,
one?
there's been.
what I was told is that he actually told them that there's a lot higher density housing going in there than what was originally planned, and that has
Going
not-
in where?
Or in West Point.
West Point,
Okay.
almost
Well, there's actually 2 of them going in. There's one in West Point
where
and there's one up in
Roland
Clinton.
Flowers lives,
Okay.
his east part of that.
Okay.
And that was really going to stress their system. So that's not coming from, it's coming from a different coal, but there was concern he had about that. So to me, it just seems like there's mixed feelings about this, or mixed information. And my concern is if it's a developer, if it's a developer that's coming and requesting this, then yeah, I can see why they wouldn't want to have to worry about
Oh, I
water.
understand
Yeah.
that. There has to be water available. And I don't know what the availability of everything is and stuff, but I will tell you straight up that I think Hooper Irrigation being able to stop somebody from getting onto our agenda as a private company makes no sense to me. I don't understand. I know they need to have a right, an availability to provide water, and the developer has to have water shares available. I totally understand that. That needs to be available if it's needed. But I don't know why, to get onto the Hooper City agenda, you would need to get permission, basically, from Hooper Irrigation to get on our agenda. That makes no sense to me.
It makes sense if Hooper Water District wasn't willing to provide them secondary water.
Yeah, but they are probably going to
But they're
change that.
saying that now, but it's not,
Let's see if it's provided. It's like Utah Power, okay? You have to go get a letter from them stating they can provide electricity, they can service you. The gas company has to provide that they can service you. Every entity has to provide they can service you. I don't know why with Hooper Irrigation that it's not just the same thing, and they are not even, they're a privately held corporation, basically,
yeah.
operating within the city. To me, it's never made any sense that they could demand somebody turn in water shares before they even got on our agenda. I know they need to make sure they have water shares available for whatever they're doing. That needs to be available. But it makes no sense to me for it to be turned in prior to getting on Hooper City's agenda for a subdivision. I totally think it
Or
should be.
prior to being approved.
Yeah.
There's been some that have been on agendas for a long time, but they were never approved because they didn't have secondary water. They didn't have any water shares.
Okay, well, and so that's why they wouldn't get approved in that situation if they don't have water shares. You know, that, I
Well,
mean,
that's one thing too that was said to me today with the shortage of water shares. What happens when the time comes when a developer doesn't have water shares? When if they can't get water shares, then how can they provide secondary water if there are no water shares available, because sometimes there aren't.
That will actually, at some point in time, unless there is another source, which there isn't,
Yeah,
of water, other than the culinary, and obviously the culinary can't be irrigating fields, okay, that's not gonna work.
yeah,
And the water from Weber Basin, I've already talked to the engineer up there, is pretty much dispersed in shares right now, which belongs to whoever it belongs to, because they either dug a ditch and got the shares or bought them at some point in time. But there is not going to be enough water shares down the road, I'm sure, to build the whole western part of Weber County out with secondary water available, because there ain't that much water available. We're still a desert.
yeah.
And that's if Mother Nature cooperates, and she has been kind of stingy the last couple of years. So
Well, and one thing, if you go to our chapter, it's chapter 5, so it's, so if you go to chapter 5 and it's 6-5-4, where it talks about developers are required to escrow funds. So this is one that was a concern that came up first to Planning Commission and then, you know, even up to City Council, was because there was, and it's called a subdivision because even if it's one lot, but it was a home, and so it says on here that they have to escrow funds to cover if there's not actual water shares. So we had this home that was built on 6700. Secondary water is not available. So then the person it was his daughter that was building a home, then was required to either give a share or escrow funds. And so that's what they thought, was that really even right? Should we as a city be requiring someone to escrow funds for something that's not even available?
that we don't know if it'll ever become.
We don't know if
available.
it'll ever be. And how long are they keeping that for? How long, because we don't have anywhere in here that says we will hold that, because it's just said these funds will be held in escrow until such time as a secondary pressure system is available in the area. Well, what if that's never?
Never.
So wonder if they have escrowed $35,000, you know, at least with our
Is
other.
that what it is? Is that what it is, 35,000, or is that just a number?
Oh, well, that's what a water share value is roughly at. So we don't say that. I mean, nowhere in here does it say.
So if they don't provide a service to 6,700, why should we have somebody put up money? And if Hooper Irrigation or whoever wants to run that by there, then they go talk to them down the road and say, hey, we're going to run, just like the cable companies. You know, they'll come by and, you know, I live on a dead end. Well, it was years before they would even come down our way because they didn't have enough people.
I don't
You
even like to go
know,
your way. It's a dead end.
I know it. And so I don't know why we should require somebody to put money in escrow if the services and provide it at the time they build their house.
And it also kind of is applicable.
I just wanted to clarify 2 parts.
Go ahead.
So, escrowing funds for water shares would be difficult, and I understand the ordinance says they can do that, or the actual water shares. In my limited experience, we require them to submit a water share so that we know one's there. Because, you know, to your point, if they escrowed a certain amount of money and then in 10 years was available, we don't know that money would cover a share.
No, it won't in 10 years, guaranteed.
But we do, and to Sherry's point, we do, it says in here they'll install a dry system, right? That's a requirement, it's not there, so that it's in and ready to go. On small ones where there's not really much of a system, but maybe we're contemplating deferral for a park strip if sidewalk ever got put in, they'll design that infrastructure and then they'll escrow the funds for the infrastructure for our 10-year deferral process. So that's where I think we do have them escrow funds, is for the contemplated infrastructure if it ever goes in. And that's what we hold for 10 years. And that's something that we've talked about, but it relates to this, how that is that.
And in line with what you're saying, if we're going to do it, then should be putting a term limit on it, like we do for curb gutter sidewalk now. You know, if we're going to make you escrow money, we shouldn't be holding it for 50 years on the chance that you may go in to do it. And I actually know one developer who turned in his water shares, and then the rules changed, and part of his subdivision, he can no longer build, but he's having some difficulty getting his water shares back that he can't actually use because he can't build the rest of the subdivision. So that's another issue. If it's turned in, it's sometimes difficult, it appears. I've never dealt with it, but I've had a couple of guys tell me they had trouble getting it back after so they couldn't.
Let's make sure I understand that right. So you're saying someone turned in water to Hooper Irrigation,
Mhm.
and then they found out they couldn't build.
No,
that they can't build.
Hooper changed the rules in the middle. It dealt with the elevation of buildable elevation 4,210, whatever it was, because the city came in after that subdivision was approved and raised that elevation. So now there are lots, and it's down behind. It's actually Josh Lynch's subdivision down there. So when the city raised the elevation requirements, then it made some of the land that he was planning on building on unbuildable. And he turned in water shares for that property, but he has not been able to get them back from the irrigation company, which makes no sense to me, because if it's now where he cannot build on that, I would think that he should get his water shares back.
Well, that makes, if that's right, if that's how it is, then he should get his water
Oh,
back.
Well, Cole today said they would be interested in having a sit-down conversation with us about this, because not all cities are requiring it, you know. Maybe this should be something that the developer works out with the culinary. Maybe the city shouldn't be the middleman in our ordinances requiring this with a penalty stated. And then maybe that's something we, you know, because he'd mentioned before, maybe that should just be something they work out with them, not us.
Well, 653 allows an exemption for a minor subdivision, so unless exempted by the city administrators for a minor subdivision. So for one or two lots, it can be exempted. But for a major subdivision, it cannot.
But the one that they did down in 6700, they gave a water share. And it was a minor,
And it's just a one lot,
one lot. Mhm.
and I don't even know exactly what the rules are as far as how much water per household.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, I will say my last son that built a house down by us because of the water shares and all that, and he was thinking about doing zero landscape. They were actually, Hooper Irrigation was good, and I don't remember the deal they made with him, but he went in and talked to him, and I thought they treated him very fair, so I think that probably fell under that exemption that,
Yeah.
And that makes
Mine
sense.
yeah, and I thought they were fair with him, so.
Yeah,
Well-
I just think, I think what you said, maybe we
Maybe
gotta
we
get.
just, need to sit down with Hooper
Yeah.
Culinary and see.
And
if
well,
they're-
and the other end of the coin is what I'm hearing isn't done yet. Like they
Yes.
haven't changed their bylaws
Mhm.
at this point in time.
Yeah.
So, you know, we need to, before we deal with this much, probably need to find out if they actually are going to do that or just looking into doing it.
Yeah.
Because if they don't do it, then obviously you're going to have some secondary available for people to do it. But the other thing that I really think as a city, we need to encourage xeriscaping every stinking place we can.
Yeah.
I deal with Ogden City a lot on park strips, and it drives me up the wall because they don't want gravel in the park strips, but they want us to plant trees in for the people that we help with their yards, and so we take out the weeds and then we plant trees, and then they still have to water the trees in the park strip, and park strips are impossible to water and keep the water where it's supposed to be. That's just, that makes no sense. So
Yeah.
there's some houses over just west of Dallas Greens that are xeriscaped or whatever. There's two words. What are they, Travis? There's one
Xeriscape and Zeroscape.
xeriscape. And which one is no grass, no plants, no nothing?
Zeroscape.
Okay, xeroscaped. And they have cool looking yards.
So Darren stopped me. I don't know if I can ask this question because it's not on the agenda, but it's been brought up. Why did Hooper City, can somebody explain to me, why did we change and go higher from what the Army Corps of Engineers said?
On the elevation of the,
Yeah, why was that done?
And that's related to irrigation, correct?
Yeah.
I think we're okay. Yeah.
So I'm just curious because I've dealt with the Army Corps of Engineers, and they are sticklers, and these guys are the professionals. And so why did we as a small city change what their recommendations were?
I don't know, let's be, That's before me.
Does anybody have an
That was a
answer?
recommendation from our-
What's that?
That was a recommendation from our engineer at the time.
And so he still doesn't know as much as what the Army Corps of Engineers,
I don't know.
I
I'm not
think
sure.
we'll be
There's
seeing
a 40,
this.
there was a 4215 line, which is depicted on our map, and then there's now a 4220 line. Those are our lines those are elevation lines for undevelopable property. 4215 was from the county, is what we brought in, and I don't know how the county determined that, but Jared has a copy of the ordinance from the county of 4215, and then how that relates and how, what restrictions there are with building to 4215. And then, way before my time, they took 4215 along with the restrictions and changed it to 4220 and got rid of some of the other restrictions, so now we're at 4220, and so that's
Yeah.
what they did.
just don't make sense to me because, we know where the water line was back in
Yeah,
the
it was in
early
your backyard.
80s and it's not even close, and it's never going to get that high because the Salt Lake Airport's going to be under, and so, the Army Corps of Engineers, I believe, was right on, and I'm just wondering why, and you ask, well, it's affected a lot of farmers out here. We're playing with their 401ks,
It's true.
just
Playing with their retirement.
when the Army Corps of Engineers, this is these people have done all the research in that, and so.
Well, and
Do
I
you
would,
recall what happened with that?
Yeah, I know JUB
Mhm.
did just draw a line, and it was so consistent with the 4220 as far as water has been above 4215 before.
Mhm.
And so if water's been above that, then how do you drain, if you're at 4215, how do you drain water away from 4215? How do you?
we fire up Bangor pumps.
You what?
We fire up Bangor
Really?
pumps.
Well, see that, but there's places that's even further.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'll bet the 4215 is still in place in Davis County and Box Elder County. I'll bet that we in Hooper, I don't know of any other cities that have changed that elevation line.
It seems like
So,
they took us on
what's
a
the-
field trip, JUB. Didn't we go out?
Yeah, what's
51.
the elevation of the sewer plant? And the North Davis sewer plant?
No idea.
I don't know.
That's what we want to check, because
Well-
it was threatened. There was places like that obviously there are places threatened, or the.
Yeah, I just don't know why just Hooper City. If everybody around said no, we need to raise it to 4220, then there's probably a really good reason.
Jared has some background on it because he took us
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, we're gonna have
And
the next
showed us
meeting,
where it was
there'll be a
42,
staff
15.
memo, there'll be a staff memo for planning commission, and there's been a request to amend that ordinance.
Okay.
So let's do that. Let's look into that. We don't need to spin our wheels on that right now. We're not going
Okay.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, so back to this then, maybe we can just work with culinary, because again, one thing we find with our ordinances, a lot of things aren't probably as precise as they need to be, or concise, whichever word would better fit how ours. So I think there's some things we might want to look at and see if there are some changes that do need to be
That would
made.
be
Because-
beneficial,
Because
yes.
times are changing, and maybe this was, which was good once, maybe it isn't.
Yes.
So-
I just add some experience. So Lane allowed some culinary in some areas, and then they took it away. And while I was there was a lot of people that would come forward and complain because they wanted their secondary so bad because they were paying so much money for culinary. So it was kind of a headache for the city. So I just am kind of explaining that
Yeah.
there could be some foreseeable problems, but the world is changing and the need for water is changing, and that's different than what it was. But that was something that would commonly show up with these developments that didn't have access to secondary. So then they changed and required secondary after that.
Yeah.
Do you have any recollection of how big of lots there were in those subdivisions?
I know that some of them were relatively big because they would complain. There were some numbers that they were talking about
Oh, yeah.
water-wise that was
Because it
expensive.
would be
Yeah.
incredible how much to water an acre of ground with culinary.
Yeah, an acre, I don't think an acre, but still, the money was
So
a lot.
are we gonna redo or look at the general plan again of Hooper in the near future.
Is it the whole general plan or just commercial?
It is making updates, because when you do those, well, if you go to, this is too, but when you
Are we
go to,
getting
when
this
you go
wrong?
to the general plan, was things in the general plan, there's a lot of the strategies that we were supposed to be reviewing every year that have not been reviewed at all. And so some of those are going to be reviewed because they should have been. And you're supposed to really be reviewing them on, and ours has been, well, it's been 5 years since they started.
Yeah, so my question with that is, are we getting ahead of if we start changing for secondary water, if we happen to maybe change something in our overall general plan, or does it go together, or
Yeah, maybe
do
go
we
together.
do something
I think,
and then amend
yeah.
it later, or,
I think that's.
Yeah, I think some of these things we just start looking at and see.
Just, yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, all this was is just
Yeah,
a
I
work
don't
meeting
think we're
discussion.
looking to
just
make a decision,
No.
we're just
No, all
exploring
this was to
options.
look at it and see, because there have been people that have came, and so.
With a little bit of perspective as well, I found this common throughout other cities. Although where they have had commercial, I've had experience in some instances where I've seen them use culinary. I know, for instance, like West Haven has some code that supports culinary usage because Bonavista, their culinary provider, well, they have code that will support zero steeping, so no water usage at all, because their water provider, Bonavista, has a resolution in like 2023 that allows for zero irrigation at all, never. So anyone on Bonavista, you can't irrigate, you can't do a drip line, nothing. So
I'm sure
That's-
legislation's going.
yeah,
So
they really hammer
require
hard.
that
So
a little bit
that
more.
resolution was sent to me, and so then so there's different ways to do it. I guess what I'm saying, even if there's no irrigation, what they did in that case is if you provide that resolution to them, and then if you're 50 feet away from the nearest irrigation line for secondary, then you can get an exemption and you can do a zero steeping in a commercial scenario. So there are different ways to do it. That's what they've done. So just some thoughts. I do think we have the broad policy makes a lot of sense in my opinion, but I do think maybe, and Darren could advise on this, there could be instances for sure, commercial application, PUD application, we've got a lot of developers when they come in, they have this WaterWise, they like to promote, they're very excited about these very minimal systems that, have these grand master landscape plans, and then they have really, really low irrigation use, and for that use, they're typically wanting to use culinary. I think that's something that'd be interesting to entertain. I just don't know if any of this would prohibit us from entertaining that, or if we could still, via a development agreement, write, a usage agreement for culinary and permit it along with Hooper water support, right?
That could be allowed in a development agreement, or we can make exemptions for specific for commercial in our code.
Yeah.
So either way.
You got a thought, go for it.
Oh, if we've got all this water, we've dug 2 more wells. They just bonded $12 million for something. Are they planning on building those wells with this $12 million, or
I don't know.
what's their plan, right?
I don't know.
We've never heard a plan for Hooper Water culinary.
So that's, maybe a meeting is a great idea before we start changing stuff.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
I
Let's
don't
find out what they think they have available before
know.
we.
It doesn't seem like one well provides a lot of excess.
Well, and I do know they actually have an attachment to Weber Basin already, that if you get a 911, they gotta just flip a valve, which is gonna cost a fortune, no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. But there is, basically unlimited access to them, and, that well over there, I know it didn't come in with really great water. That's for sure and for certain, but,
Anyway, it'd just be nice to know what they're.
yeah, let's,
That's what I
so
think
let's,
too. Yeah.
let's
If
table
you're
it until we,
interested, then we'll,
let's sit down
Okay.
with them and see what their plans are.
So the next thing is Tomato Days with Jamie.
She's excited.
hey, kudos to her for volunteering to do it.
Absolutely.
Amy, why don't you take my seat here?
Did she really volunteer?
She did.
Or was this an army volunteer? Step forward.
It was voluntold, no, I'm kidding. I took it on when Aaron was exiting, and it's been fun. Yesterday, or last night, we did the flags in the ceremony, cemetery for the veterans for Memorial Day. So that was fun. No, but for Tomato Days, I just kind of wanted to give you guys, I know it's kind of far out, but I wanted to change it up, and hopefully all of you don't get too upset. But council has in the past came and
Oh, no, I'm not. Hey, I'm excited to hear.
council in
Yeah.
the past have done the community dinner, resident dinner, right? You guys come, you
And serve.
serve, right? We're gonna change that up just a little bit, and you guys are gonna plan it. You guys are going to get the food, pick it up under my supervision. I will help you guys get your food handler's permit. I will still have all the tables. I will still have the tables and tablecloth. But you guys are gonna plan it. You guys are gonna be preparing it, and you guys are going to be serving it completely for the people that voted you guys in.
And we've kind of done that.
That's not
Which
too
is,
different.
it's not different.
We've done the
too much,
tomatoes,
no.
we've done the corn, we've
Yep.
done everything but the meat, basically, is
Correct. And you can
prepared.
still do the meat from Kent's or the meat from
Chad Funk.
Folks,
Yep.
yeah, he does a
And you
good
can still
job.
do that. You're just picking the menu. Basically, you guys are coming together.
Oh, really?
And
That's a
choosing.
good idea. Pick the
You
venue.
guys get to choose it. What are you gonna cook? What are you gonna serve? You guys are gonna do that. It not only takes a little bit of a load off of me, but it also helps you guys work together as well.
Sweet.
You guys have any questions? So kind of start planning the menu.
And you are,
What do you want to serve?
you are addressing the guy who ran Hooper Tomato Days for 7 years. Completely got all the food, got all the stuff, got the volunteers to do it.
I second that Ray does it.
Well,
No.
I
I said, did it for 7 years, okay?
think
Don't want to do it anymore. We actually,
I think that's one of your assignments, isn't it? City council assignments. I think we put Tomato Day.
I'll be in the vicinity.
Just make
Yeah,
it
yeah,
do the same
No,
menu we
you're
had
in it.
last year. Not everybody loves it.
Your family,
Just go with
your
it.
Actually,
family's
it was.
gonna
It
want
was
to
good.
jump in
It's great.
and help.
Yeah.
No, my
Because it
family
can't be
wants to
done.
get out of town so they don't have to.
So,
No, they're in.
So giving support to Jamie, you know, just to
Okay.
reiterate this a little more. So what we're saying is we want us to be in charge of it, that she's not having to worry
About procurement and
about
stuff.
any of it, because what has happened, and yes, it used to be, I think, a little more city council, and I also have been one that's done Tomato Days for a
I'm
number,
excited that the
number of
person that makes
years.
the motion for which meat is chosen. That'll be
Yeah.
a good meeting.
Pulled pork.
But anyway, just because usually what has happened is we
Veal.
give assignments. I mean, I even know as me as tomato, you know, when I was doing it, I would come and pass an assignment sheet along, and some people would sign up, some people wouldn't sign up, and then it was a huge job. So it really should be, we're in charge of it, we're responsible for every bit of it. That Jamie's not there worried, because that has not happened.
And
So what's our
Realize.
budget for the food? Do we have one?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll get back to you on that.
So I can give you a little feedback on that. We usually charge like $3 a resident to come. The coalition, Western Weaver CTC, has given us money because that's like a family dinner night. So usually it's pretty much paid for with what we collect. I mean, it's donation, so if someone comes and they don't have money, we still let them come and eat. But we have gotten some donations. And so Chad Funk has done the food. We did pulled pork last year. We did the smoked hamburgers and hot dogs, and people got a little panic because smoked hamburgers are pink on the inside. And they said, oh no, these aren't cooked. Well, they were. So then we went back to the pulled pork. You did
That's
corn
simple.
again last year. You know, they've sliced the tomatoes, but really if you just, whoever, we just are in charge of it without.
And getting volunteers to help take care of it and
Yeah.
stuff too, that's gonna,
I mean, whether it's family or volunteers that you find, like, I think last year we had us, office staff went over and was slicing watermelon and stuff, but office staff will be here, your families are working together, and you guys are working.
yeah, we spent a lot of time down there shelling corn and
Oh,
stuff
I know,
last year.
yeah, you guys were there, yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool.
So
We-
it's not
we got
much
done.
different at all.
No, it doesn't sound like a lot of change to me.
No.
from where we're at.
And then another thing to keep in mind is the 5K. I don't have a volunteer. You might have saw that on the door. The sign
Someone to
saying I
run
need
that?
somebody to not run. Well, you say run, but it's a 5K.
Okay, driver.
Organized.
Organize it. Yeah. Be the director. through the 5K.
Ray couldn't run it anyway.
I drive it. I got a car. I can run it 5 miles for nothing.
So if you know somebody that would love to organize something and be in charge of the 5K,
I think we have
Oh,
enough
I know.
running
Oh.
enthusiasts around. We ought to be able to find somebody to put that together.
I know, I've put it on social media, I've put it on the door. We haven't got anybody yet. So if you have somebody in mind, let me know.
I know a guy that runs them 100-mile marathons.
Yeah,
5K to him would be warm-ups.
yeah.
Well,
Well, they
it's-
wouldn't get to run it.
no,
They would have to sit.
I know, but they would.
it's organizing.
Just
and
organize
It really
it.
is a lot
There's
organizing.
got to be people out there that are involved in people that run
Mhm.
a lot.
Yeah. But I'll come and speak again as it gets closer, but I just didn't want it to be, a surprise.
It's a good time. We got time to work on stuff.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That wasn't much change.
Full list.
Oh, that one.
Dinner and a 5K?
Well, and then
Well, just
helping with
somebody
rodeo ticket. I mean, there's always other things
Oh,
we need
yeah.
you to
Yeah,
help
once it gets
with.
closer, I'll give you guys some areas that we need coverage in, because you guys will be there all week. As that mandatory, all week.
No.
Yeah, it's
No.
mandatory when you got voted in. When
No.
When you swore in. I think there was like a sentence.
There was no clause in there that said
Whole week.
Back then,
mandatory.
it wasn't a week. It was only 2 days.
Okay. Thank you.
Sweet.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, okay.
Whatever
We
you
really-
need, David Craig will be happy to do it.
We really,
His wife might do the 5K.
You say she would?
She might.
She might.
She's pretty.
She's that type of person.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can find somebody, especially with some notice. Thank you, Jim.
okay, we have a few minutes. I thought if we did, then we'll go through this. I actually serve on the advisory council for the Healthy Utah community. And Hooper City 3 years ago applied and was designated as a Healthy Utah community. So I'm just going to, take one of these because you're probably aware, if you're not aware, but let me tell you a little bit about what. So this health department and with the state of Utah, they developed this program. And there's 3 parts that actually come to this program. It's active living, access to healthy food, and mental health. So when you get your designation, you set goals, and then you are supposed to be working on these goals over the past 3 years. And because I have a degree in health, I probably have a little more passion about this than some people do. But one comment I made at the advisory board that I sit on, there's no reason for us to do this if we're really not going to do it. Having a designation, you'll see on the back, and our name is on the back that says we are one of the cities. But what good does it do for us to say we're a city if then we don't do anything about it? That completely defeats the whole purpose of doing this. Well, this is the year that we then can redesignate as being a Healthy Utah community.
Are these those that have been awarded this
These are
before?
those that have been awarded.
Yeah, because
And
I
you'll-
could show you a picture when Hooper City got awarded this
Yeah.
2 years ago.
And you'll see it says in green, those are the redesignated communities. Not all communities,
We're not redesignated.
no, because we've only ever done it once, just for the 3 years.
Okay.
But again, we need to decide as a council, if we're really going to do this, then we need to be committed to doing it. And it means more than we just, I write a letter and say, yes, we're going to, and then nothing's been done. Because I know the last couple of years I've asked multiple times, okay, what are we doing? And we haven't done it. We haven't done it.
What are the options? Like what?
Well, so I'll tell you some things. One thing they said, we had a pickleball court. Well, we do. So, and we do have a pickleball tournament with Hooper Tomato Day, so that can count as far as the active living. So I'll just tell you, because I went through and I kind of made some notes, because like I said, I like all this kind of stuff. Years ago, when we very first started and there was a Healthy Utah designation, and we're talking probably 18 years ago, there were some things, and I, at that time, was a volunteer, and we had students that came and helped us from Weber State, and we ended up, we had, we did a walk with the mayor, we did some other historical walks, we would give pedometers, there were some other things that we did along with that. And they used to give us money. Well, then they quit giving us, they did away with the program and then they came back with this one, which they don't give us money, but we need to start. That was one of everyone's suggestion, you know, they would give us some money. So some active living things we could do. We already do the pickleball tournament. We've kind of talked about maybe having a 3-on-3 basketball tournament would be healthy living. One thing that with the America 250 that they have suggested is having like people walk 250 miles. So we could start like June and keep track to the end of the year. You know, people no longer do like keep track on paper. They all would have to do some kind of Google Doc that people could keep track. We do the 5K race for Hooper Tomato Days. We did used to have a family bike ride with Tomato Days, but then that went away. But we could have a family bike ride, anything that, as far as active living, that is encouraging for people to be healthy and walking.
Didn't we have a volleyball tournament?
We have a volleyball tournament.
That counts?
Yeah, that would, yeah. I mean, we are doing, but those are specific. We do those once a year, but is there anything we're doing to actually encourage people
that's
to
what
be?
keeps it going. It's something that's just part of our community. The community does
Yeah.
all the it's just part of our lifestyle.
Yeah. So we need to have something that we do. You know, I did a wellness program for the Forest Service for a number of years, and we did all these active campaigns all the time. So stuff like this, like I said, well, then we'll go on. But we need to come up with something if we are going to do it. If not, I'm not going to say we're going to redesignate and then we don't do one thing with it, because that's what's happened. We haven't done anything. You know, it says here we're supposed to have this community coalition. Well, we're already part of the Western Weber CTC. That we could help, you know, we're already part of a coalition, so that would count. So it says, you know, you have to have your own coalition, which I don't believe we have one or had one, or identify one that already exists. Well, there is already one that already exists, that we could be part of that coalition. Okay, so those are things with active. Access to healthy food. One thing that Hooper said before is that we were going to have healthy things on our website. Well, and on Facebook, and I don't know that we did that. I never ever saw that. So again, we can't just say we're going to do it if we don't ever do it. So back, you know, and was with the Forest Service. I mean, there's simple campaigns you can do as far as healthy food. Like we had a water card where people had to keep track of if they drank so much water every day. You think that seems so simple, but it's really not, because not a lot of people drink enough water. But again, you know, we had a little card, but they wouldn't do that, but people could keep track. We had like a eating vegetables campaign, because you're supposed to be eating 3 to 5 vegetables a day, which most Americans don't. But again, or you know, you're supposed to be eating 2 to 4 fruits a day, which we don't. We've kind of talked about we could maybe do as with staff, because I was telling them all, you know, my ideas. We could do maybe a farm-to-table share, because when it comes time with gardens, people have leftover stuff, that we could maybe make it something outside, use one of our we have those little portable houses, and then people could bring their leftover zucchini, and people would always know they could come and check, and you could share that. Someone at this meeting I was to said, yeah, I can't remember now what city they lived in. It was a small one. I don't remember now, but they said it was not uncommon to go into the post office and see zucchini there on the countertop.
I think that's a great idea.
But we're not going to do that, Ryan, but we could do it out front. We could have something, because sometimes there is leftover
Postal carriers
stuff.
can drop your mail, grab your zucchini, and take it back.
But they could bring it. And then, you know, we have our health fair that could go along, you know, with this too. As far as mental health, again, we have the health fair. You know, someone suggested about offering first aid classes, that we could teach people CPR, you know, first aid. Again, we have the Western Weber CTC that offers classes all the time. They call it mental health first aid, where you come and learn about helping to identify people that could have stress issues or suicidal thoughts, or, you know. Anyway, so my question is, and we don't have to decide this tonight because this is just a discussion item, but is this something we want to keep doing? Because for me, if I'm going to write a letter and say we're going to do it, then we better be committed to doing it. If we're not, then we can be one of those cities that doesn't redesignate. So, thoughts?
So putting a big movie screen out here and serving hot dogs and potato chips.
Probably not gonna
healthy.
qualify.
Okay, that could count though, under health, you know.
Mental
strategy
health
for
for
mental
me,
health.
huh?
Yeah, any of the community events can count towards mental health, but like I say, the coalition specifically does do mental health. I mean, you could always do, we used to call them lunch and learns at the Forest Service, but we would actually have a speaker that would come, you know.
So, I don't know if you're thinking just go big or go home, or do we just start something small this year and add to it each year until we get our feet under it and find out how it's working? I don't know. I'm just throwing this
So
out.
you have to, when you apply, because, so we should have been working on this all along, and because what they'll do is they'll come back to our city and they do a little video and they present it at this, you'll see it in October, and they'll say, Hooper City was doing this and this, and they've expanded to this. We can't say Hooper City was going to do it and then we have a blank screen. So we do have to we will need to come up with some goals of some things we're going to work on. I am more than happy to do this because I love all this kind of stuff anyway. Like I say, my degree's in health, I have experience doing this, but it still has to be something as a city if we think there is value in this. When we used to do it before, and back then we'd get pedometers, that was one of the things, but now everyone keeps track on their watches or whatever. No one carries pedometers anymore. We could try some things, and that's one thing, you try it. If it works, great. If people don't like it, great, then you come up with something else. But I think they mean if we're going to sign up that we're committed to doing something. South Salt Lake does it. Have you heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
Do they do?
They do. I'm trying to. Are you lumping this under the Tomato Day discussion? This.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of lumping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and we
Yeah.
have something similar. But I think we should put it on another agenda to
And
have kind of a more thorough
we need to
discussion about
vote on it too,
Yeah.
if we even want to. But anyway, most of the stuff went along with Tomato Days. If we wanted to do a 3-on-3,
Right.
with the volleyball but
Yeah.
anyway, take these, look at them, and we'll put it on a discussion because it will have to be something we vote on. Whether we really want to do it or we don't want to do it,
And the idea is to do it year after year.
Year after
I mean,
year.
It is
Mm-hmm.
something the city keeps doing.
So this is something
3-year
like-
plan at least.
Yeah.
So this is something like our deputy city recorder could just be over it and do the whole thing.
No, we're not putting that on
Well, she
her.
could. She could do that, but
Yeah, no, but we don't want that to be one, and I already said that, I'm not going to give this to any, but this really is under us, so we will put it on and we will vote and see if it's something we really want to do or we don't.
Sounds
So,
like a deal.
one of the things they talked about was a farmer's market at Tomato Days, but that never really came to fruition.
That shouldn't be that hard to put together.
Yeah, they don't really have the crops anymore to do it. We have a hard time getting Hooper tomatoes, the Tomato Days.
Yeah, but I think you get people to come from out of town and bring stuff to the farmer's market. No? You got people all over to Salt Lake to go to farmer's markets.
Not by September. Not by September. We get peaches and honey.
Ain't gonna be no peaches this year, that ain't gonna be a
No,
problem.
this year we won't even have peaches. And if there's no peaches, maybe we have no bees. So that could be a problem too.
Okay.
So, okay. Other thing then, discussion on agenda items. Was there anything, we still have a few minutes that anybody wanted to before? Most of our stuff tonight is just discussion things that we're going to be talking about, so.
One thing that I do have some confusion with, that's on the trail properties lease, or that one thing needs to be corrected right there in the middle, because that makes no sense. And there's another thing here on the trail properties lease that says family, designated as a family, that's a person living alone, 2 or more persons related by blood or marriage, or a group of not more than 10 persons who need not be related by blood or marriage.
And you're talking about
living-
the care facility.
That's a care
The care
facility.
facility
yeah.
code.
yeah.
Okay, is that what
Yeah,
that is?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that too.
Okay.
We'll need to talk about that. We'll have to
That makes
Yeah.
no
do some
sense.
code changes there.
it
Yeah.
wouldn't- Related to trails, it wouldn't make any sense.
No,
What item
Yeah.
on the trail lease did you mention?
just in the middle of the thing, it says whereas the city would like to have this excess one, there's like a one,
What,
not
give
an
me a-
eyesore.
give me- Oh, you're in the actual agreement?
Yep.
Okay.
The trail lease.
Yeah, there's just a line right there in the middle.
Where the city.
Maybe
where,
punctuation
where
is bad,
it
but the way,
says one, not an eyesore to the.
Yeah, that
I
just-
wonder if at one point there was a two, there was a list here, and I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. It just, that didn't make any sense. When I read it, it's like, yeah, that don't make any sense.
Or they might-
That's an easy fix. I'm not saying it's a hard fix. It just needs to be fixed.
Okay, well, if nothing else then,
Have we ever given any thought to an ordinance restricting data centers?
Had,
Is there such a thing in the state of Utah?
Well, I mean, I think that's a great thing to put on an agenda. I think you can,
For sure.
yeah, we should probably put it on.
Are people exploring that you've heard?
I think it's being explored, yeah, everywhere. It's
The
something
governor of
that's in-
Florida is exploring it for the entire state.
Yeah, I think it's everywhere in the nation. So,
I think just as you get, oh, go ahead. Dan.
yeah, it's something that we should probably not discuss today. I think
put it on an agenda
put
down
it on
there.
the agenda. I think that's something that we could.
Sweet.
I mean, we have a lot of land here, right? A lot of land, so it's something to discuss.
One thing that Sherry mentioned to me, and as you guys have discussion on this, my only ask from a staff standpoint would just be, these are broad in and of themselves. Some of them may be simple. We'll see how the care facility discussion briefly goes. It might be a simple numerical change, but as we identify topics, if you can help prioritize them in my mind, because we have two right now that'll go to planning commission, right, that we're going to work on, and this is 4 more items, and I realize they're small, but they can be robust, especially if the determination is we don't have an ordinance, we should create an ordinance, or we should, modify an ordinance extensively. So, and then if you can help prioritize the ones that feel really significant and ones that don't, so that we can make sure we're getting them and making it actionable and really moving on them. And then also, it might be interesting if one of you have a particular interest in one of them. I'm not trying to, push my job off, but that's what I'm going to start doing with planning commission to an extent, because I have a lot of land use experience here and some expertise on zoning, et cetera, but motorized vehicles, like I suppose you can stretch it to land use, but I'm not so sure that I have any more expertise than anybody. So if one of you feels like, hey, I'm going to look into this a little, or let's give it to planning commission, and I can help kind of see if there's someone who wants to champion that, and then obviously staff will advise and give as much comment as possible. But I think the more we can prioritize and then kind of have someone own it, so it's not just a fleeting thing. I'd like to just see these things move and actually get some transition to them, or some traction to them, so that we get some things, approved and changed. So yeah, just let me know as you guys see, hey, this one feels really important to me. Get on it, and I think that I have some expertise here, et cetera, and I'll leverage your guys' abilities.
And while we're here with the care facility, just while we're at this work meeting, this is obviously going to flow to the next meeting, but the state code, there's a specific state code that requires cities to not regulate residential facilities. This has been passed down from the feds, so we cannot regulate to the extent allowed by law. So there's only certain reasons why we'd be able to regulate it, and it's because the state has said that we can't say that a single family unit is less than 4. So our code is wrong. We need to fix that. So it's been updated in the state code. So we can't say that a single family is less than 4. So because of that number, we could require conditional use for these types of facilities for more than 4. So for more than 4.
What does our code say?
Say that last statement, though.
Our
We can't.
code doesn't have it doesn't make it a conditional use unless it's 8 or more.
Say that last statement, though, in the
For
state
single
code.
family.
If it's less than 4, we can't.
I didn't know we.
Can you clarify that?
Yeah, so a single family limit, so a single family dwelling, the smallest that we could have it be is 4, unless we are a certain type of, like a college town. So 4. That's why we can make it a conditional use to, if there's a facility like this, of more than 4. So we can still regulate it, even though there's a state code that says you cannot regulate those facilities. If it's more than 4, we can. Make it a
Residential,
conditional use.
though. You said residential, right?
In residential zone.
What about commercial zone?
In commercial, well, it depends. That would be up to you guys. It would be allowed. That'd be up to the code. But the problem is in residential. I guess the issue, sorry, not problem, the issue, and that's what it specifically says, is in residential, you can't regulate it.
Okay.
Yep.
So, we got a minute. Where our definition for family, right? If you go to
I think it's 2, isn't it? No, sorry, it's 2 and then 10. So 2 if you're a family.
yeah, personally,
if you're married.
2 or more persons related by blood or marriage. Okay, a group of not more than 10 persons can be related by blood. Okay.
Related by blood, and then there is, what's the next number?
8 or fewer unrelated mentally and/or.
Yeah.
So how would that apply to our situation before?
Oh, I'm just explaining the reasoning of when we can make it a conditional use. This state code says basically you can't regulate these,
Sure.
but we can because of that additional code of the
Makes
the
sense.
family.
Understood.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So we probably need to make dual changes.
So when we go out there, you'll read and walk through this paragraph by paragraph and we'll get it, so, okay, thank you. Then we'll come to your meeting.
Larry, did you leave a pen there now?
Oh, yeah, right.
Larry. Did you leave a pen there? Yeah. I wanted it, but
Hey Bruce, you made it on time tonight.
Third time's a charm, right?
I don't know, we'll see.
You wish I was late again.
So basically, this is
How's your boy doing?
right.
I've got 3, which one?
Hey.
Huh?
Hey.
Oh, they're all doing good, yeah, thank you.
So right now,
You probably know more than I do.
We would like to welcome you to the City Council meeting for Hooper City. It is May 21st, 2026. We apologize, we're having some technical difficulties tonight, so you probably won't be able to see the meeting, but you should still be able to hear it. And if that doesn't work, it will be recorded and will be posted to our website later on. We love technology until it doesn't work. We want to excuse Council Member Craig. He is at his daughter's graduation tonight, and he may be joining us on Zoom, depending on how long that graduation goes. I'm Sherry Bingham, I'm the mayor, and I will be conducting this meeting. We are going to have our opening ceremony, a Pledge of Allegiance by Council Member Fowers, and then a reverence by Council Member Rapoletto.
Everybody please stand and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful that we can meet here tonight with our residents and with the City Council and everyone that's involved. And we're grateful for this Hooper community that we have to live in, and for those that help us to achieve those goals that we're seeking for a happy place to live and a good place to live. We're grateful for all that thou hast blessed us with. We're grateful for the moisture that we've received this year, and we ask you to continue to bless us with more moisture in our mountains and help us all that thou can. We ask you to bless us during this meeting, that we will be able to discuss the agenda items that we have before us, and that we'll be able to come up with good resolutions and discussions, and we ask you to bless those that will be addressing the council today, that they will share their thoughts and be calm, and that we can all leave this meeting this night and still be friends and be able to enjoy each other's companionship. And this we pray for in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Just a couple of announcements I want to make. Our May newsletter is on our website, so make sure you check that out. There's a lot of good, important information. We want to thank all of those that came and helped us put the flags on the cemetery yesterday, and that's honoring the veterans in honor of our Memorial Day that's coming up. I don't know how many of you noticed, but back on the table there is our proposed property tax impact schedule. And so if you haven't already picked up a copy of that, make sure you do, that it talks about the proposed tax that Hooper is contemplating doing a truth in taxation. The next on our agenda then is our public comments. You will have 3 minutes. If you'll come up and state your name in the microphone, and we will entertain those comments now. Is there anyone?
I just had a quick thought. I was sitting there and you guys were talking about like the healthy
State your name.
initiative. Oh, my name's Nicole Brown. Sorry. One of the things I love about Tomato Days is the farmers market, when you can go in and buy like the local farmers, like all of their, crops and stuff like that. And maybe if we did like a farmers market or something once a month in the parking lot. I don't know. It was just an idea when we were talking healthy.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I'm a little taller than my sister. My name's Michelle Pinkston. I work for Harper Irrigation. I'm here representing them, and I have a little statement that I want to read. Hooper Irrigation values its long-standing relationship with Hooper City, and I need my glasses, I'm wondering why I can't see, and has consistently treated the city in the same manner as all other shareholders, in accordance with the company's Articles of Incorporation and bylaws. For more than a century, Hooper Irrigation has worked to serve this community fairly, responsibly, and consistently. Our goal remains to ensure that all shareholders and water users are treated equally under the policies and governing documents that apply to everyone. Hooper Irrigation is not seeking litigation and remains committed to cooperation, transparency, and practical solutions. We remain willing to meet with city representatives at any time to discuss concerns, review documentation, and work constructively toward resolution as we have throughout the long history of both the company and the city. We recognize there are differing viewpoints regarding these matters, and we also recognize the public interest surrounding them. However, Hooper Irrigation believes these issues are best addressed through accurate information, respectful communication, and good faith discussion rather than public conflict or speculation. Our focus will remain on protecting the integrity of the company, serving our shareholders responsibly, and maintaining productive relationships within the community moving forward. Sorry, I thought this was at the end, so I have a lot under my mouth. So. Hopefully everyone got that.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
My name's Bruce Taylor, and Larry, that prayer, you really make it rough on me, you know? All this kindness and friends, and I'll tamper it down just a hair, okay?
We'll still be friends.
Yeah, we will for sure, until we get on the basketball court again. Three things I want to talk about tonight if I can. As some of you know, Hooper Water drilled a $12 million well in my backyard. It will be built over the next 3 years. When property is bought for a well, it should be put in the middle of a field and not behind a bunch of existing homes like it was in my place. Nobody cares until it's in your own backyard. How all the people at Snowville and Tremonton and all that feel right now. Nobody cares until it's in your own backyard. Next item. Terra Strata, Stuart Adams, 40 acres, not approved last year, but he'll be back this year, and we all know it'll all be approved this time. Once again, nobody cares until it's in your own backyard. New item, new subject. The house that Hooper Water owns and rents, which is right next to me, now has 9 large dogs that live in this house. They share my chain link fence in my backyard. Hooper law says you can only have 3 dogs. 4 to 10 dogs is a kennel. Their dogs bark constantly. This has gone on.
Recording in progress.
The dogs bark constantly. They get out. They can't be caught. They run up and down the roads, and they're wild. Anyway, I've called animal control, and our whole neighborhood has 3 times in the last year. They've come down, and they help them catch them, put them away. When animal control ain't been available, Weber County Sheriff's been called, and they've been down, and they run up and down the streets, and they help them, catch them, and put them in there. This is the rental home that Hooper Water owns that's right next to me. They've talked to them and talked to them and warned them, but they have 9 dogs now instead of 3. Nothing changes. Kathy and I have to go out our front door, sneak around our own house to the east side to get to our backyard, because if we go out our back door, we have 9 dogs barking at us. The lawn hooper says 3 dogs. This is a house that is being rented, owned by Hooper Water, and where it's a rental, they are not eligible for a kennel license. Once again, if it's not in your backyard, nobody cares. I'd like the city to get involved with the dogs. Go to Hooper Water, and Hooper Water tells me to go to Hooper City. You all know the Hooper Water people, Wayne and Corey and all of them. You know them better than I do. I'm not an old Hooper guy. I've only lived here 53 years. But anyway, they're all good people over there. They've made some poor decisions, but you know, it's their home. It's being destroyed. They don't seem to really care. They say PMI is who manages it, and they really don't want nothing to do with it. Everybody says it's all up on the east side of Hooper. It really ain't going to matter, but we really do have people that live up there too. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay. We will move on then. We do not have any public hearings tonight, so we're going to move on to discussion item. The first item we're going to discuss is our commercial and hobby kennel license. So this was in the packet. For those of you in the audience and City Council, you already have a copy of this in your packet. This is something that has came up recently in Planning Commission, and we thought this might be a good time to look at this and see if there's any changes we would like to make in our code. Maybe before we start that, maybe you could, Darren, give us a little explanation as far as what limitations we have as far as state code with dog breeds and so forth.
Well, I think we already discussed this at Planning Commission. Cities cannot regulate on what type of breeds of a dog are allowed in their city. That's just outright in-state code can't allow it. But with hobby kennels, we don't need to allow that. So I just want to give you the zoning authority that a city has a pretty broad authority. We don't need a hobby kennel as a zone. We can regulate hobby kennels. We can change the number that we want to have there. That's something that would be the broad authority that a city would have. There's already a requirement that how many dogs can we have? Up to four, up to three.
Or you need to count.
Up to three, and then you need a hobby kennel to go forward. And then we have commercial kenneling that's a completely different code. But for hobby kennels, I just wanted to put that out there, the authority that the city has for that specific. There's nowhere in the city code that requires a city to have it, which means that you have broad authority to make changes there. So I wanted to just outright put the law out there for you, so that you guys can discuss what you want going forward, because it's really broad on what you want.
Okay, thank you. And Malcolm, do you have something also? You've kind of done some research on this, dealing with Planning Commission?
No, we, this would be similar to how we talked about in our meeting. Just give me your guys' direction on what priorities you want, and we'll get to work on things. I would just piggyback on what Darren had to say, and similar, you guys talked about this, and maybe it's just a reminder, you guys mentioned potentially looking at the number of dogs, zones they're permitted in, and maybe even registering requirements. That's some things that other cities have. I just wanted to bring up a few things just to preface your conversation and maybe direct it. I think a good way to approach it, Councilman Ropalato mentioned, we probably have a lot of people in Hooper who actually have more than 3 dogs and don't come get a license. I'm not so sure the number's the problem. It's probably exemplified by that point, right? We probably all live by people who have more dogs than are permitted. What happens is when someone does come in and it becomes a public area, I'm not advising that we make the number larger, but I think we just control the things that we can best control, meaning I think our ordinance does a good job of contemplating usage, right? Personal use is within a hobby kennel, breeding, hunting, training, those are in hobby. Commercial kennels are more for, to earn money, selling of dogs, things of that nature. So I would focus on usage. Some other things that got brought up on our last kennel license were the kennel, the actual enclosure. Those are things maybe we could talk about. The site, fencing, if there's any type of ordinances related to that. Odor control, that's obviously something that got brought up, and I think something that we could, formalize in an ordinance. And then noise, I think that's also something we could address via ordinance that our ordinance doesn't do a great job of. So if you guys want to have further discussion and want to push this forward, those are all things I think that are legal and other things that are controllable and that could be, beneficial. And then I think as we got a better policy, maybe even a final discussion would be, do you want these done administratively to a certain extent? And do you want them done, or do you want them done conditionally as a conditional use? If you had a really great ordinance, I'm not sure which would be the best method, because you'd have a broad ordinance that would cover everybody, and then we could administratively apply it. We're going to have conditional uses. That's obviously questions for Darren. But then I think just the final piece was, I do think it's interesting as I look through ours, in a commercial kennel is permitted in an R1 zone, potentially a R75 or 3/4 zone, depending on, we have a couple ordinances, but probably both technically. And then a hobby kennel is permitted, it doesn't exclude any zone, so I think it would be conditionally permitted in any zone. I think that may be something you want to address from my standpoint. I'm not so sure that an R4 or an R3 would qualify for a kennel. For instance, our animal units, you have to have 20,000 square foot minimum or half acre to get any animal units. Yeah, you could technically apply for a conditional use for a hobby kennel under any zoning.
And just to verify, you are talking only about hobby kennels when you're saying that they're allowed in all uses?
Yeah. Commercials are R1, yeah, but hobbies, I don't see a limitation on as it relates to zoning, so that's something you might want to address. So I just wanted to preface your conversation, but yeah, not a lot of research done, I haven't looked at other, so I don't have a ton of input, but if you want some done, we're happy to dive into it, and I think we could build a good ordinance for it.
So one reason this came up, because we had a hobby kennel license that came before, with a conditional use before our planning commission. As we know, they are the recommending board, but they are going on what our zoning is, what our codes are, and us as a legislative board then need to decide if there's something we want changed. So even though there were people that probably were not happy with the recommendation, but again, they are governed by what we have already designated as our code. So if there's something you would like different with this, then it's up to us legislatively to change this.
One thing, Malcolm, that you addressed was raising puppies is a money-making scenario, but I also believe anybody that's training dogs is also using that as a business type scenario. So I think we ought to address that a little bit too. And I am concerned about training dogs in areas, especially large numbers. I think right now in the current zoning, they can have 4, but they could train 6 more. I don't know. That's a lot of dogs running in and out. I personally wouldn't want something like that around my house, and I'm not sure most of our residents out there would like that. So I think we got to look into something to maybe restrict that a little bit, as apparently we can, of where they can have them.
Are you talking about the number?
Yes.
Is that your main concern?
The number and the usage too.
Yeah, not to give too much of my opinion, like I mentioned, I think the lower end of the number actually is very in line and maybe even be restrictive. Up to 3 is all. I don't know if that's the issue. I do think our hobby kennel where it allows up to 10 could be excessive, but yes, I agree with that thought. 10's a lot of, could be a lot of dogs.
That's a lot of dollars.
And especially depending on the zone.
So, I think whatever we decide, this ordinance needs to probably include some language about enforcement. I mean, I know this is supposed to be enforced by our code enforcement officer, but I don't think it's happening. And so it might be helpful to include some language in here about what procedure we follow to enforce a code in the example we just heard tonight, for example. You know, when there's a clear violation, and you call animal control and you call the sheriff's department and nothing happens, where's our code enforcement officer issuing the fines that should be given, et cetera. And, you know what I mean? So have some language in there that states the procedure would be very helpful, I think, as far as enforcement goes. Why draft an ordinance if you're not going to enforce it?
We need to put some teeth in it too, to make it so that we can enforce it without question, basically.
So maybe we could just start at a clear place where we maybe would have some agreement on, or even some discussion. How are we feeling about allowing a kennel hobby? Because right now, like Malcolm mentioned, can be in any zone. We have not designated that. If it's in a 1/3 acre, 1/4 acre, even a patio home, for example, we do have those. Is that something, and maybe we just need to make some definite things. So let's start there. How do we feel about having a kennel hobby being able to be in any of our zones? totally independent upon size.
Well, and that's the unfortunate part, where we can't discriminate on the breed of the dog. That becomes very difficult to say, well, you can have 10 labs in a quarter-acre zone. That's difficult. You know, you could have 10 Maltese Chihuahuas in a quarter-acre zone. Nobody would probably know, but because you can't discriminate on the breed, you've got to do all for none or one for all. So, exactly. So, do we even allow it in a quarter and a third-acre zone or patio zone? You know, is it even allowable? Is the first question.
Well, that's one thing that's been hard as far as, you know, we mentioned about how do we enforce this, but we don't have a really clear-cut code that they can actually go to somebody and say, well, that's not allowed. Because they'll see here and say, oh yeah, kennel hobby, I could have up to 10, but we don't really we need to get it a little better defined because it doesn't list what zone, we just have a definition.
They still would have to get a conditional use, so we would be enforcing each of those mitigating circumstances, mitigating conditions that were put on them. So.
And just to be specific, right now, I might have been crossing it. We prohibit them in HDR patio zones, PUD zones, but they're conditional in R4 and above, so quarter acre and above. Only prohibited in the hobby zone.
And so, just to kind of talk about enforcement for these right now, which are different, I think, than what was brought forward before in statements from the public. But for this specifically, hobby kennel, we can bring it to the planning commission and have it revoked and have it. They wouldn't have that use. They wouldn't have the conditional use if they're not following what was put on it. So, for example, this last one, the planning commission, they're required to have barking collars. They're required to have a 6-foot fence around their entire yard. They're required to do certain things for cleaning and those types of things. If they didn't follow those, then they would be on review, and then they could get revoked, and they wouldn't be allowed.
Who reviews those, I guess, is the question. Who is going to go and make sure that they're doing those conditions?
So if there's if there's a complaint, a valid complaint that is brought forward to the city, it would have to be verified. So it would have to be verified by staff. It would have to be verified by the code enforcement or staff, someone that works for the city, to verify that it was valid, and then it would get brought forward to the planning commission. So just because we have a code enforcement officer doesn't mean that staff can't investigate these types of things.
So any of us could actually go investigate.
For staff, yeah.
Oh, good.
We leave that to staff.
You know, this is a tough decision, and I heard Bruce, and I've been around the barking dogs, that side of it, but I've also been around the other side that, and I don't understand this, but there are people out here with mental health issues that they have to have a dog or something like that, and that is what keeps them calm, what keeps them, their thoughts, and I've seen that side personally with people I know, and so it's hard to decide, you know, how do you make it work for everything. I think the one we heard tonight, yeah, we need to use the code enforcement or our animal control that we're paying a lot of money for every year. And so you're saying we have staff, or do we call our animal control?
Animal control can be called. So animal control, if we're paying animal control or does the county to investigate those, they should be doing that.
But that example is not even a violation of a kennel license because they don't have a kennel
Yeah,
license.
that's different.
That's just flat out a violation of
Yeah, there
number
probably
of
is a,
dogs.
I haven't looked, I wasn't ready for that one, so it could
Yeah.
be noise, there could Could be lots of things that are
That's
in
just
violation.
animal units.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I mean, I think since this is a conditional use permit for the hobby kennel, I mean, I think depending on the zone, depending on, again, we can't discriminate on breed, but depending on a bunch of different factors, we could set allowances for that conditional use permit regardless of where it's at. You know, I think the hard fast rule applies to the commercial license, which I do like the R1 zone that it can only be in, and then no more than 10 animals per acre property. I think that's reasonable.
Can you look into the ordinances when you get time and see what we would need to maybe tweak? Because you said you hadn't really looked into some of what we discussed, so.
In referring to the other issue,
Yes.
I absolutely would.
Okay, appreciate that.
So that is different than the kennel.
Yes.
Kennel we're talking about.
So do we change anything on this kennel hobby definition? Or do we just say it's in a conditional use?
And it says in there, just R1.
I lost my power on there. Does it say for just R1 zones?
For commercial.
Or all for commercial? You know, you get some of these small lots, if we get into patio homes or that, you know, they walk out the door and somebody's got a big dog and, you know, they're not gonna wanna be barked at on these small lots, you know, at least an acre lot that's a ways away, but.
I don't think the issue though is like over one dog so much as it is a wolf pack, you know, so I don't think we're gonna have too many people squawk about their neighbor having a dog, but you're gonna have some people that are gonna be concerned when their neighbors have 9 dogs. I think they have a valid concern at that point in time.
So what direction was the planning commission looking for, do you think? Like, what were they struggling with when they were trying to make that decision on the last one?
So I think we had residents that came in and they were concerned about the number of dogs, if they were going to be controlled, the barking, that the planning commission's hands were pretty much tied because of what this says, that they could have the 4 to 10 dogs. They can't discriminate whether, like you said, it's a toy poodle or it is a Alaskan Husky. So our rules have to make sure and fit everything, because like you said, you know, if it's 10 toy poodles is quite different than 10 German Shepherds. So we need to have something that's going to be, that's going to fit all.
So
Yeah, that's probably something they fumbled with was because of the specific type of dog, the amount felt like a lot, but also the usage was something they struggled with. What these dogs were used for is something that they had a hard time. That they got some comments that they were, working through. So.
Can we limit, maybe we're grabbing straws, but like weight or size of a dog? Still can't even do that. That would come under breed specific, basically.
Yeah, that would be doing that.
Okay.
So
We try.
So Malcolm, other than what's listed here, breeding, hunting, field trials, obedience training, competition, security, or personal enjoyment, what were they struggling with? What categories were not included in there?
I can be pretty blunt, I'm sure. These dogs were specifically trained for almost like police type work. So I don't know what bucket that would fall in, but it gave the perception, and I'm not claiming this is the case, but maybe a perception that they could be, dangerous dogs at times or trained to be violent or detained.
I think just to kind of
competitions much, because then we couldn't have Labrador retrievers going to competitions there. That would be difficult to specify one type of competition would be okay, but another type wouldn't be okay. I think that's, kind of a generic term, competition.
I just think the main concerns that were discussed is how loud it was. Safety was a big discussion, like if a child had access to a fence that had so many dogs and putting their hand in, just things that could possibly happen. So those were talked about by the citizens. And I think what else? The fence height was talked about.
Odor a little bit.
Odor.
Noise.
Yeah, obviously
Noise, obviously, odor. Well, that's something, for sure needs to be addressed, is you don't want some kid going to stick his paw through a fence that, a chain link fence would contain a dog well, but it's not gonna keep a kid from sticking his hand through, so we need to have something in there that would be a total 100% bulletproof separation in my mind, so that there is no way for them to get, in contact.
So I listened to that meeting and all the items that got brought up. The lady came up and she had an answer for every one of them that I thought was great. And I've got personal experience with this. We have a dog at our house that's being trained for a police dog. And when that dog is being trained, you better stay away from it. But when he doesn't have his uniform on, he's just a regular dog to us, and I can't throw him around anymore, but he'll play with me in that. And so, I see both sides of it. As far as he's a very protective dog. If somebody gets close, he's going to start barking. And so for a kid to stick his hand through the fence, those dogs are being trained. I can't imagine a kid even getting close to where that dog is. But I appreciated how they said they're going to be out there with the dogs when they're outside. And the same thing at our house. My daughter-in-law, she is out there with that dog if it's ever out. Could it break open something? Yeah, there's always that possibility.
That was a condition, was constant supervision.
Yeah.
When it's outside.
Yeah, and those dogs are that are being trained. They are very obedient, more so than my kids.
What do other cities do, Darren? Have you seen that?
Some cities don't have hobby kennels. Some cities have a lower number. Some cities have a little bit more specific in their code that require it's still conditional use, but it kind of lists out some of the conditions that are common there.
So from what I'm hearing from everybody, so if we lowered the number from 10 down to 6 or something, would that help? Or
there would be no restriction per law to do that. So you would have the broad ability to do that.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with taking it from 10 down to 6 for a hobby kennel.
I think this use was only, was it 5? It was conditional use, yeah.
Knowing that we can still restrict it on the conditions, we could even, when somebody comes in and says, I want 6, and the planning commission can say, I get 4, for whatever reason they come up with. We can still restrict that number on the condition, right?
Yeah. Actually, no.
No.
So sorry.
No.
So zoning, the way it's written at least, is it's permitted. So up to 10 is permitted. But as long as we can mitigate the detrimental effect. So right now it's permitted 10, they can have 10.
And that's in any zone except for patio, correct, Malcolm? That's what you said? You can.
And PUD, patio and PUD, any zone except for those.
So again, even if you had 10 barking little tiny dogs in a quarter acre might seem excessive.
Yes, it is, especially if it's a big dog. Well, I would propose we move it down to 6, would be my thought. Zoning, so it's only in an R1? For commercial. Or for commercial, I would say half-acre lots and bigger. If we get down into third-acre lots and quarter-acre lots, I don't think hobby kennel should be allowed.
It's consistent with our animal unit ordinance.
How many units is a dog per quarter?
We don't call it out, but by giving 10 dogs to the acre in a commercial, then you're giving
So 10?
two and a quarter dog per unit. That's what you're giving.
The hardest thing about this is dogs are a whole lot, I don't know, more annoying, generally speaking, than somebody's goat in their backyard or their horse in their backyard. I have had a complaint about chickens that we're looking at right now, and it's valid. Neighbor has a whole bunch of chickens, and a lot of them are roosters, and they crow a lot, and that's something looking into a little bit, because there's pretty much no limit on how many chickens you can have, and not the sex of the chickens, so you can't really restrict that they have to all be laying hens or something like that. So there are some issues that way, but I think you're going to get more complaints from dogs being a problem than pretty much any other animal that people are going to have on their property. Unless they got some stinky billy goats, which I was privileged to smell one today that was in the vicinity where I was working, and it smelled terrible.
So anybody can have up to 3 dogs regardless of where you live, and then from 4 to 6 would be a hobby kennel, but not allowed on quarter or third acre lots. Is everybody okay with that?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, sign me up.
Okay.
So we can make those changes and it'll have to go through zoning.
State that last change, Grant, sorry, everyone okay with? Go ahead.
Not allowed on quarter or third acre lots. Hobby kennels.
So this will still have to go through planning commission and go through the whole procedure there.
Why don't you get 4 to 6 for a hobby kennel?
And if they have better thoughts, Malcolm, for sure, have them bring it back to us and let us hear. Will do.
Okay, any other discussion on that topic? Okay, let's move on to our next topic then, which is trail property leases. And as you know, we passed a new ordinance where all of the leases are coming before City Council now. So specifically, we wanted to talk tonight on the trail property leases. And again, in your packet, you have the information. This is currently what the city does. And you also had in your packet, that was emailed to you, the staff report from Jared, our Public Works Director, who wasn't able to come tonight. So again, we wanted to discuss this. And I'll tell you a couple of things I've noticed is we don't have in order for things to be fair, I think everything has to be fair. And even the trail leases are not one size fits all. Some are larger than others. Some do have animals in them. We have said they can't have animals. So I thought this would be a good discussion as far as if there's any changes or additions or anything you'd like to see with this.
I just wanted to preface it. I pulled some code as it relates to this, and these sloughs are a result of a couple ordinances during the plating process.
Thanks.
Hey, do we want that added to the public record? That, sir? Bruce. Do you want that added to the public? If that's being presented to the council, it'll have to be submitted for public record to the city.
it's pictures of stuff you had.
Deck of pictures of the dogs, the 9 dogs that I'm talking about.
Okay.
That same deck was given to Weaver County Sheriff, been given to the Hooper City people that own the house, and been given to Animal Control headquarters in Ogden. Everyone has a deck of those pictures, and nothing's happened. Thank you.
See you, my friend.
So, do I need to do with these? I mean, just.
Well, it's up on the dais, so it's part of the record.
Okay, cool. That's legit.
I just wanted to mention, you'll see in there under our preliminary plat specification, that we have a no build setback, that we get dedicated as public open space, and then under the preliminary Slough Parkway development plan, it permits us on situations like this where we will have them dedicate, this open space, which then becomes, this Slough Parkway that we're talking about, and then that leads into, so that's the ordinance that is creating the Slough property that we own, and then obviously you guys are familiar now with the leases we've been doing and Jared's comments on it, so that's how they resolve though, when we go seek these, they just, we do seek them, their benefit to the city, and we do it in the development phase, so that's how it's happening.
The one thing we did bring up about these, at one point in time, the city was kind of restrictive on letting people use this extra property on the edge, but as it was reviewed by Public Works, they figured it actually made more sense to let people use these parcels than for the city to have to maintain them, because that's a large cost to the city. So I think Jared, is pretty much behind allowing them to do stuff that are within code now with keeping the setbacks and things like that, and restrictions on animals and stuff that we have currently in place. I don't know, maybe they need to be enforced if we have, where they're not supposed to have animals on there, because you go back down, when you start going back to animals again, that puts us back to dogs. Somebody walking the trailer doesn't want somebody's dog, growling at them through the fence. So if we have a restriction already for animals, we probably ought to look into enforcing that maybe.
I have a few thoughts on this.
Go for it.
We don't necessarily have to do it as a lease. We did this in other cities. We do this as a license. So it doesn't have to be something that comes to the council, because our code requires all leases to come to the council. These are essentially licenses. I mean, arguably they're leases, but a license basically is giving somebody permission to use the land. We can take it back whenever we want. And that's how the leases are worded. We can take this back whenever we want and whenever we need it. There's no restriction on us going in and doing it. So we could call this a license, and we could just do this administratively and say, hey, if you're willing to take care of this property, we don't want to take care of it, but we want to still maintain ownership of it, and you're willing to do it, then if you fulfill this license agreement, you do this, this, and this, and this, and this, then you have access to take care of it and to do what we say you're going to do. So that's just an option. I don't know how the council likes that, but that's how I've been doing it in every other city that I've worked in. So.
And then there wouldn't be a fee or anything, just a license.
Correct. It would just be a license.
That actually, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when we received this email from Jared, it seems like it kind of fits what you just described.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What his recommendation, to his knowledge, the arrangement we've had has served the city well and residents well. And whether you want to call it a license or a lease, but I think the lease was like $1 for 50 years or something like that, unless something really changes.
And I don't mean to cut you off, Councilman Fowers, but the state code, me and Ryan looked into this heavily just for leasing. State code requires cities to certain requirements for leasing property out, as long as it has a public benefit to the city. So we can do less, like $1, if there's a big benefit. So I still think it works for a lease. Just other cities are doing it as licenses, and that way, if it was a license, it wouldn't necessarily have to come to the council for every single one of these. It could be something that's done administratively. So just an idea.
One of the reasons
month because we had someone that came in and wants to do a lease along the slough and wants to have some animals, and we said no, animals aren't allowed. But then you walk along trails in other places and there's animals. And so I thought, how do we tell one person, sorry, you can't have animals, but then we're allowing other people to have animals. Some it's just a real narrow place, and even where it says about how many feet they have to be away from the slough, well, we're not enforcing that. So again, we in order to be fair, it needs to be fair. We can't just say, well, we like you, so we'll allow this, and maybe.
Well, did
so.
we allow it, or are they just doing it and we haven't enforced it? That's,
Yeah, I don't know, because it's been there for quite a few number of years, and if you walk along, like I say, certain trails, you see that. And so I am fine with the license, I'm fine with staff administering this. I still think we maybe don't need to look at this and maybe get a little better clear cut on what we're going to do with this. Because the whole point of this really was, as Jared mentioned to begin with, when they did the walking trails, they thought, oh, the city will maintain those. There'll be this nice grassy area. Well, they soon realized we don't have water to water those nice grassy areas, and so what do we do with them? Well, it's much better when the residents have moved their fences back and take care of it. It's 100% better. But then we probably still need to come up with a little more congruent conditions, not just, whatever, so.
Well, we're coming back to the enforcement issue again here. If we're gonna put stuff in place, and we actually probably ought to work on, trying to get it enforced as best we can. And it's really hard with our compliance officer from the county because and he actually will, if we had a complaint file, he would go investigate it, but then he has no teeth to do anything. It's got to come back to us if something's got to be done. And I'm not exactly sure, what our ability is to enforce that. I don't know in code if we have, if we can slap their hands or slap their face or fine them $50 or what.
We would be able to take back the slough and we could remove all of their property and everything off our property. So that's according to the lease, but that would be consistent with what I'm talking about as well.
And the license thing would basically just remove some stuff that the mayor doesn't have to deal with. Staff could just deal with it if we went with the license versus the lease.
Yeah, it's not the mayor. Well, the mayor would necessarily administratively be dealing with it instead of the council. But if the council still wants this to be a lease for these sloughs, then it'd just be handled more administratively the other way.
No, I don't want.
I guess my only issue is the number 10, where it says leased property should not be for the keeping of animals unless approved by the city in advance. So who's going to approve that in advance? Is it Malcolm? Is it the council? Is it Sherry? Where do we go with who's making that decision? And, you go back to this 35 feet from the slough bank, who's going to administer where their fence is placed 35 feet or more so the animals don't go onto the slough bank? I mean, there's so many things with animals. It's almost like no animals were done. It's so much easier just to say, no animals.
Well, and 35 feet is actually designated from the opposite slough bank of the trail.
It's not the center of the
No, it's like, I think it says the opposite slough bank from what I read into it, which is going to be really interesting to try and measure. And I'm pretty sure 35 feet would, like the main slough, the Hooper Slough up here, it's not 35 feet wide, or I mean, it's way more than 35 feet wide. So the opposite bank on it wouldn't even be a factor, but I agree with Ryan. If we're gonna regulate animals, just no animals, that would just, they wanna mow it and put a picnic table out there, just no permanent structure.
So it's almost like just keep it 10 and you'll be done with it.
Yes.
I agree with that. I mean, when these people bought their homes and moved in there, that land wasn't theirs anyway, and so, they're just, okay, we can throw an animal back there. Well, they've got to take part of their yard to put the animal if they want that. And, if they want it, and if it was me living down there, I'd probably go down and mow the grass and the weeds just to keep it looking nice.
Well, and, you know, they call it all of these, they are the trail leases, and they do go along the slough, but you have some that's maybe they get 30 feet, some get 150 feet, some maybe even bigger than that. And it's some of the really wide ones, and then you have the trail, and then you have the slough that's a few feet, quite a few feet away from that. And some of those are the ones that have animals because it's a so maybe we even need to have two different criteria here, maybe even based on footage, because those ones that have a big wide area, maybe the animals aren't necessarily hurting, and maybe as a city council we need to do a little field trip and walk along and see these before we make decisions, because you'll see there's a big difference. They're not all the same, and there might be different rules that exist for some versus another, because, yeah, I remember when they first did it, they were saying, what now does the city do with this property? We can't water it. It's work for our parks and recs have to go and mow it, and so maybe that's what we need to do, is really take a little field trip and on our non-motorized vehicles on the trail, and so look at them.
Can we temporarily lift the non-motorized vehicle clause? Or we can have the sheriff's department state it's an emergency, because I know they go flying down those trails in the police cars occasionally chasing people, so maybe we just bum a ride.
So for whatever it's worth, today I was down on 6300 West looking at the slough, and just so you know, since the 60s and 70s, it's about twice as wide right now as what it was 50, 60 years ago. So it's getting wider. I mean, we used to go down there and play in it. I shouldn't have with what was in there, but we could actually jump from one side of the slough to the other, and I don't even think an Olympic athlete could have jumped it where we used to go. So it is getting wider.
Well, maybe we really could maybe then get some golf carts or something and take a little trip down and ride along and see, so you can see the differences. And maybe all of you have walked along there. I have quite often, because we will walk the sloughs, but there's a big difference. And I don't want to be limiting it for people that have a big, I mean, some of them it's almost a half acre of land they have back there that they really then could have two animals. So would that be agreeable if we just did a little?
The only problem I see with that, and I think, well, the idea comes from what Jared alluded to too, is that once they put animals back there and they graze this down, and then if they decide not to have them anymore, then you have that erosion problem that Larry was referring to, Councilman Roncoletto was referring to. And so, anyway, but that's a real issue, right? But nature itself will take care of that, and it has done for hundreds of years. If we're the ones that start messing that up, if we either, there's other weeds that would grow. Once it's grazed down, there's weeds that would start growing that naturally wouldn't have been there, like puncture weeds or some of those things. So I think it'd be a good idea to just take a tour like you're recommending, Mayor, and just go take a look at it, and then kind of see the difference in what works and what doesn't work.
Can we tie a hike along the trail into the healthy community proclamation?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go
Yes,
for
we
it.
probably could. Well, I like that idea, because I would hesitate making any restrictions yet till you've actually had a chance to kind of see. And some of it, there's a hill, some of it is pretty flat, but there's a wide difference between what these leases.
Can I read two sentences from Jerry?
Yes.
From his letter? He says, "We quickly learned that the natural habitat that was growing along the sloughs was of great value and rather fragile, and needed to be preserved as much as possible. These plants have literally been growing there for decades, and when an area is disturbed, where this vegetation is removed, weeds, thistle, puncture weeds want to grow in the disturbed area, and reestablishing those original native grasses and plants is very difficult with no means of irrigation."
Well,
That's a
and
good point.
in conjunction with Councilman Powers' suggestion, if you've got animals back there,
That's
and you
what
don't
I'm
want to guarantee you don't have weeds, then you'd have to have certified hay to feed them to make sure there wasn't weeds brought in the hay and stuff like that. So, you know, that's a whole nother ball of wax that needs to be probably addressed. But I agree with the mayor, we ought to go take a tour and see, you know, what we think. It's kind of hard to sit here in a chair and describe the differences that we have that we need to deal with.
Okay, we will get that scheduled then and let you know, and we'll notice it if anybody else wants to come and go on this little tour, and we will do that. Okay, any other discussion on that before we move on to motorized vehicles? Okay, well, as you know, we've had some issues with motorized vehicles, and we've addressed this a couple of times. You know, this was back in April of last year in our newsletter, where we gave a definition about what motorized vehicles were, and it said it's prohibited to use motorized vehicles on any city-owned property, parks, trails, detention basins, fields, etc. But we don't really have a code defining, saying they can't. And so last time in our work meeting when we had Officer Abergast, I'm not saying that correctly. Okay.
Close.
Okay, came and said, you know, it's really hard for them to try to enforce this on our city-owned properties if we don't have anything for them to enforce. And you know that there was the e-bike law that came out, the new Utah e-bike law that took effect May 6th of 2026. So I think this is also something, if you're interested, we could have work on, and maybe we could give some suggestions, or Darren maybe already has some ideas, but we don't really have anything in our code that's prohibiting it, other than we tell them it's prohibited. We put a sign up that says no motorized vehicles, but again, there's no teeth into that if we don't have any kind of code or ordinance.
Well, the state obviously just updated their regulations for those on other streets, so it should theoretically help, but the county is in a very difficult situation trying to enforce that with the bikes going up and down the road. Even the new laws that are in place are going to be a regulatory nightmare for the sheriff's department to enforce. But I agree with Mayor Bingham that we need something that's got a little more bite to it, because this parcel down here on 5100, we have a very easy to read sign, no motorized vehicles. There was 5 kids in that the other day on dirt bikes rolling around, and that's, I don't know, the noise is obviously an issue, and the dust they kick up is obviously an issue for the neighbors, but, you know, I think we need to deal with it a little more vigorously if we can figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is illegal motorized vehicles on public streets. You know, period. They're already illegal. There's already statutes and ordinances galore that, you know, regulate that, and so it just needs to be enforced. But I mean, we're talking about public-owned property. Motorized vehicles on public-owned property is what we're trying to pass an ordinance for. But I mean, I think the e-bike thing is really a non-issue in Hooper. You know, I think that was updated for cities with sidewalks and, you know, where e-bikes are an issue or a problem. I've yet to see an e-bike be a problem in Hooper. And so, anyway, I think our focus needs to be motorized vehicles on city-owned properties with this ordinance.
Yeah, I agree. That's the same thing I thought. Well, let's work on that then, Darren. If we can have that be something we can maybe come up with some kind of, maybe there's another city that already has an ordinance.
You know, this is kind of involved, this motorized vehicles, because a motorized vehicle to me used to be an engine. But now we've got electric motorcycles that are just as fast, and so is that something we need to, or would they be lumped together? No, it's the same, whether it's electric or gas, it's the
We
same.
could, I just want to verify, sorry, this is one, I looked into all the others, don't have a current code that says that you can't ride these on public property, on our owned property.
Not that we know of,
Okay.
and when the officer was here last week, he said he looked because we had
Okay.
specifically invited him to come to our work meeting to talk about this, and he said he could not find anything. And when we put it in our newsletter, and like I say, this was April of last year, our legal counsel that time told us we had to be really careful what we put in there because we don't have anything that
Okay.
states, other than we put up signs that say,
I didn't know that this would be what we were looking for, but yeah, this would be an easy find.
okay.
An easy plug-in for code. For what you're talking about on sidewalks, there's already state code. There's already state code for the scooters. So state code already is there, but for our property, we could add. We can do something.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. Okay, the next thing, these all ended up taking a lot longer, so we'll hurry through this one, even though this is maybe one of the bigger ones. This is on care facilities, and again, this came, well, it didn't, but it almost came to Planning Commission because we thought it needed to be a conditional use permit. We've had some concerns with this. The city put a moratorium on this last year for 6 months. That came and went. We've never done anything differently with it. And so, again, this is something that needs to be a discussion. And did any of you have a chance to look through this and have ideas on what you think? Because it, again, state code, Darren, maybe you can explain what state code we
Yeah.
need to have.
So, well, for state code, it's just, and it's federally mandated, and that's why the state code has adopted it, that a city may only regulate a residential facility for persons with disabilities to the extent allowed by the Utah Fair Housing Act and Title 57. So there's only certain types of restrictions that cities can put on it. If we want it to be a conditional use, it should only apply to to something that's over a single family. So if it's over a single family, then that will be, according to state code, more than 4. So sorry, is it more by land use authority and zone permitting occupancy means the number of individuals allowed? Yep, so it'd be more than 4. So more than 4. So we want to change our code because we have to, because state code wins here anyways. Our code is wrong according to the definition of a single family. This is the code that applies to us, so it already is. So we're okay there. But if we want to have these uses have conditions, we need to change our code and say that, well, actually, sorry, I have a good code right here. Guess what city I've taken this code from? Does anyone want to guess what city? Clearfield. Clearfield has really good code for this, but it talks about them being able to put conditions if it's over 4. If there's a care facility. If it's under, it's just straight permitted.
Can you look at our definition of family here and tell us, and just make sure we're all on the same page where our code.
Well, what I'm saying here is 8 or fewer. I guess that's okay. That's fine. The state code still is, yeah, we're fine.
I wanted to just clarify, I took a broad swath or, approach. I just grabbed anything that resembled it. So some of these don't apply, but maybe just to direct your perspective on family. So if you go to the family definition there, you guys see that? Okay. You can see we have it's just interesting, right? We have family, and the first 2 probably make sense. A person living alone or 2 or more persons related by blood or marriage. Number 2, a group of not more than 10 persons who need to be related by blood. So kind of then C is interesting, and where I've gotten hung up and just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page, just because they now 8 or fewer unrelated mentally and or physically handicapped or elderly persons residing in a dwelling under staff supervision. Anyway, because that's been defined as family, right? As you can see there, we're not. We're allowing people. So, for instance, we have an application. We have a care facility that has 4 residents. Well, it's not a care facility per our definition. This is how I understand it. It's a family. So I just wanted to clarify that, and then that dovetails into. I'll highlight just a few of them. But you can see where 8 is kind of our magic number. If you go to Children's Treatment Center in more than 8 juveniles, right? So once you get above 8, then we're calling it a treatment center. If you go to foster home, that one kind of dances around it. I'm not sure it's explicit, but 7 to 13 children. If you go to nursing facility skilled, more than 8 individuals. If you go to residential care facility, more than 8 individuals. So we kind of have this threshold that we're dancing around of a family is 8. Beyond that becomes care facility S type stuff. I just wanted to get that, in front of the council, make sure that again, it just seemed like we could, anyway, it's a number. And I'm not sure.
Yeah, the reason why it's a number is 8. If you're over 8, it's more commercial. It's like a commercial care facility, which would have different kind of restrictions. So these are the type of that can't be restricted from our residential zones. These types.
Could our family definition go to 5? The state code says you can't have less than
Yeah, I think
3. So if it was 5, then could we have?
I'm getting tired,
Yeah.
but I had thought through this earlier today. But that's the reason why I think state code has before, the definition of before, is because if you have that in our definition of family, then it's more of a permitted use. It's more permitted. But here, if we say a family is this definition, then we could put condition on it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so if we were to, for instance, if the council were to say our definition of family is going to be more comparable to state code, we're going to say 4 or fewer related, then anything above 4, we would have the ability to have conditions,
Correct.
discussion,
Right.
and we wouldn't put the city at the requirement of, because right now we have one 5 and we were to
Right.
11. So, or if someone had 7, it would be a family still. So, everyone getting it?
So where did
Everyone's there?
where did Part C even come from under family? Where did that originate?
I don't know. It's just there. It's been in code.
That doesn't make family in my head.
Yeah, me either. That's what I'm saying. But you can see how it dovetails into all their definitions, right? It's a trigger number. Like we're calling that. Anything beyond that gets almost treatment like definitions in it, right? Like nursing and et cetera, care facilities. So we've used 8, and I don't know why that. I don't know what determined that early in our adoption of that code. I don't know.
Unrelated, mentally or physically handicapped or elderly persons is a family?
By definition, yeah. That's why it's here in front of you, because right now we have some of those going on per our definition. According to our definition in code.
Where did that code come from? That's
Hooper HCC, I just pulled it from ours. I don't know where we got it.
That's been established since 2020.
Yeah,
Or
sure.
2000.
2000, yeah. Or if we got it from the county, I have no idea.
Okay.
We'd have to maybe get Reed on it.
Can we change that?
Yes.
Okay, let's change it.
So these are things that, it's going to be complex because there's been a lot of legal scrutiny here. We need to be careful. Because of what I just explained to you, these are permitted in residential. They're permitted. And even if they're conditional, they're permitted. But if they're over a certain amount, we have an ability to put conditions on it.
I thought your comment was interesting that above 8 is commercial, but under 8 wouldn't be registered as a commercial facility.
That's what I think they're getting the number 8 from.
Yeah, 8 seems like that would probably be a commercial facility to me, but.
One instance specifically, and I don't want to, specifically in this instance, the state requirement is this care facility can have more than 5. So to your point, the state had a greater limit, or a greater restriction than we did, which I found somewhat interesting.
Like through DOPL, like the state is restricting these. The state is the one that's enforcing these, is making sure that they're up to code.
I believe it was 4, but anyway, it was more stringent than our own code. We would have let her do more by our definition.
That goes on to Ryan's question, is where did we get this from? If the state's more restrictive than we are.
I think I've said this a lot. Our code is old.
So
Really?
So you're saying you have a good one there from
Yes.
Clearfield?
You have access to it?
You're gonna,
Clearfield has a great code. It puts puts it to 4 when we can do conditions. It just has a better, it defines terms a little better. So.
Well, how hard would that be for our attorney to convert that code over to fit Hooper City?
To have it fit within our code, I mean, it's a lot of work, but I think we have to do it. So I don't think there's a great need to jump on it.
So does that take care of our goal to conditional use drug and alcohol facilities, to do that?
Yeah, I think that's, we need to, in order to have conditions, we have to change our code, because I think they're gonna meet the definition of that.
Yeah, right now our drug and alcohol one, I'll have to pull it, I don't think we call it any resident limitation, so it would be strictly following the state requirement that they came up with, I think, so.
Okay, let's work on that too then, because like you said, these are some things that have recently, I know this seems like a lot, but all of these have came up recently to Planning Commission or to staff with applications. And again, we can't expect our Planning Commission to do, they have to just vote and make recommendations based on what our code is. So if our code is flawed, that makes it very difficult.
Or if it's just permitted, it doesn't even go to planning commission, it's a permitted use. So, no conditions, right?
So, Malcolm. Malcolm.
Yeah.
So in our work meeting, you wanted us to prioritize these 4 items. Is that
would be helpful?
is that what we need to do right here tonight?
Prioritize or delegate. I don't know, right? I mean, just to be really frank, it didn't seem like anyone had a lot of motorized vehicle opinion or expertise, but
Legal advice is, I think this one should have a lot of priority, this last one.
I was just going to go in the reverse order for my priorities. DCBA.
okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our action item then. We have a motion approval of a commercial business license, Wasatch Fuel Enterprises. And we have someone here tonight. Malcolm G, is there anything you want to say about this before he comes up to address the council?
No.
Okay, well, we'll welcome you to come up then and
You're still waiting.
Yeah. Hi. How are you? I am Sakib Shugut. I just applied for the Wasatch distribution license for the business. Are you very excited? Come to the Hooper. That's it. Is it? Thank you.
so this is the Sinclair station that is located at 5500 South, 5500 West.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, just some quick questions. What are, or maybe just one question, are you planning on just leaving it the same way it is, or do you have plans of, adding something to it or changing? Or?
Right now, the kind of same things. Maybe in the future, I want to add something else. Right now, the same it is.
Okay, so is it something you don't want to divulge in the future or share, or you don't have to? I was just
Not yet.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Any question?
Any other questions on this?
Well, I had a question, because I wondered if it was Sinclair, so why are we having to issue a new business license if it's the very same thing?
A new owner.
Or because of-
It's a new owner. Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
We can't require them to, but we like the saddle, right? Do we like the saddle? That's the one with the saddle.
Yeah.
On the dinosaur?
They actually,
It's cute.
they actually had kids the other day go inside the store to ask to be able to go ride the dinosaur. They actually, 4 or 5 kids went and requested dinosaur riding.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back to council then for discussion. Does anybody have any questions, discussion on this? I can just say on public record, we've really appreciated our association with Nick Manning. He's been very supportive, and I'm sure you will be as well, but we've appreciated all that Nick has done for Hooper City as far as his involvement with all of our community events. And so personally, I really want to make that acknowledgement, how much we appreciate him. And we will appreciate you as well. It'd be nice to get to know you. Okay, so if there's no other questions then, we need to have a motion then on this approval of this commercial business license, Wasatch Fuel Enterprise Incorporated, located at 5500 South, 5500 West.
So moved.
Okay, the motion, okay, was made by Councilmember Fowers, seconded by Councilmember Hill. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Okay, so the next thing we have on our agenda then is approval of the amendment to our legal counsel contract. So I don't know if Darren, you just want to start with that, and then I have some things to
I'm gonna approach that. I'm switching here. I cannot give any kind of legal counsel here. First, this isn't an ultimatum that I've brought forward to the city. Obviously, this is coming because there's been some changes. So Matt has left. It's just me. I don't need to put any words in his mouth. But there's a change, and probably the reason why there was a change is for some of the reasons I'm going to talk about tonight. But that being said, it's been a great experience. We both have loved working here. It's been challenging, and challenging is good, and it's been interesting for the legal issues that we've been dealing with. I have some really good connections in this field. I work with people that have been doing this for 40 years, municipal law. And I've come to them with some of the issues we're dealing with, and it's funny to get the, or I've never dealt with that before kind of situation, and with people that have been doing this for 40 years. So it's complex, which is interesting. That's something that keeps it interesting. Sometimes it's been tumultuous, and it has taken a lot of time. It's something that we didn't anticipate. We didn't anticipate that it would take as much time from us initially. So when we started, we didn't anticipate that. To kind of explain a little bit, I want to add another attorney, Nick Mills, to just talk about him. He is worth his weight in gold. He's been doing municipal law for almost 20 years. He's one of the senior city attorneys. He works for Kaysville. His resume speaks for himself. He's very, very smart, well-educated, and he's one of the best people I know. He's the most optimistic person I've ever met, and he is my mentor. He's the reason why I chose this career. In law school, I did an internship at Layton, and that's what got me connected with Layton, and he worked there. I was planning on doing big firm, and I don't mean to talk bad about big firm, but talking to Nick Mills and his reason for working in this field was what pushed me, and that's why I'm here. He said that his job is all about making the right decision, for doing the right thing, which sometimes in big firm, that's different. So doing the right thing. That's why I'm here, but that's certainly why he does it. So he is a great person, amazing. Having him work for the city takes care of what I'm asking for, I promise. He is ready to go. He's going to be my partner. We are a good team. We used to call each other the Splash Brothers, and this is when Steph Curry and Thompson were dominating on their team. But anyways, that's what we actually still call each other now. So it would be a great team. What was I going to say? So what we're asking for, we're asking for $4,000. Now, obviously, everything ebbs and flows, and the months were different. We kept saying, me and Matt kept saying, well, this is pretty bad. I can't. This is interesting how much we're working from the very get-go. And we kept saying, well, let's hold off. We'll just push it. Let's just hold off till the end of the year. Let's hold off till after. And I mean, especially December and November with the issues that we're dealing with, that was a lot of time. But then January happened and it was the same issue. I'm still working, I would say about 10 hours a week. So 10 hours a week with Hooper stuff. So 10 hours a week. That was just me. That's not counting Matt. So that's about what it was at. If we just do my increase to 4,000, just for those 10 hours every week, that's $100 an hour. And according to other contracts all over the state, that is a great deal. So again, this is I'm obviously selling this on you right now as I'm doing this. I'm not going to give you any legal advice. This is up to you. But I can tell you that you're going to have great support, especially adding Nick. That's going to be great. The city of Hooper has interesting legal issues for a reason, and it's because where it's at and where it's going and where it wants to go. And there are more legal issues coming. With the development that's happening, there's a lot that's going to demand a lot of time. So that being said, that's my pitch. I'll take questions if you have questions.
What role are you and Nick going to take? Similar to you and Matt, what are you going to do?
So
council versus commission.
Nick would do the planning commission. So Nick's council is the same on Kaysville, and he's in his council right now. So it'd be the same.
I've never actually seen your original contract agreement. I have to assume in that at some point in time you had, let's say, estimated roughly how many hours you thought that was going to take to mitigate what we needed for the city.
Right.
I'm guessing that we had somewhat exceeded the amount of time that you thought it was going to take?
Well, it's estimated. So we figured it would be about 5 hours a week, but that's estimation. So all cities are different. I mean, my partner, so Nick, he covered a long time the city of Fielding. That's different. It's just way different. Or Hennifer, one of my good friends covers Hennifer, and they meet in, for city council, a garage, and it's just a different ballgame. The city's just getting bigger, so we just didn't anticipate it.
Are you anticipating as we grow that we are going to have more issues?
Absolutely.
Okay. Which I kind of think is totally reasonable. I'm assuming we definitely have some issues that are on our doorstep that we haven't dealt with yet. So I think moving forward with something like this is probably not a bad idea for the city. I personally have never had you, I haven't contacted you very much because I just haven't had a lot of legal questions, but I have known that you were very available when we had somebody that had legal questions to contact you, so kudos to you for doing that for us. I appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you. Very appreciative of what you've done, and I would not want to go out and search for another attorney right now, so I think your rate is very fair, more than fair, and so I'm on board. Everything I have to say is good.
So this isn't a question either, but just a little comment, just a refresher for our council. So on April 30th at our budget meeting, and if anybody wants to go back and listen to it, it's at minute 44:15. So for about 11 and a half minutes we discussed this, and I was the one that brought this up to city council, that I felt like we needed to raise the contract to 4,000. This was not something that Darren had ever approached me on. This was me as the mayor, as I had noticed the workload that we were expecting him to do. And I went back and I do have a copy of the RFP, and to be quite honest, the 2,500 was considerably reasonable, and in my mind even I felt like a low amount for the work that then, once you became our attorney, we expected you to do. And I know at that time, before I even brought this up to budget meeting, I had talked to Cami, our treasurer, to make sure the money was already available in our budget, which it was. And so, I was the one that brought this up, and we had quite a good discussion of it at that night. So again, I say thank you. We really appreciate the services that you've done for Hooper City, and I feel like this amount is really still a reasonable, good amount, and I feel like you mentioned, it would be good to have Nick's experience as well. I think that could be a benefit because, we've said for a long time we're a new city. Well, we're not. We're 25 years old. We keep saying we're a small city. Well, we're not. We're almost 10,000. So it's time that we start moving into the next phase of the city, and we do need good legal counsel to help us with that.
Just a question on that line item. You just mentioned 1041-4500 attorney. We do have budgeted 45,000. Was there a reason for the extra 5,000?
So if you go back to that budget, we have 45,000 under general fund. If you go to sewer, there's an additional 20,000. And if you go back and listen to the meeting, we discussed that quite a bit in that meeting as well. That Cami said they split that up because there could be legal. So we have a total of $65,000, which we had last year in our budget, as well as in our fiscal year 2027 budget, which will account for what we are paying this. If you do the 4,000, we also pay Brandon Miles for our prosecution. And then we did also put on retainer water attorney, and all of this will be covered under these legal. Cami also had mentioned that we do have quite a substantial amount in contracting services, which legal can also go with our contracting.
Well, another item, and I wasn't, this was before my time, but when we hired Darren as the attorney, did we have a plethora of other attorneys that put in applications for our city to do that? So I'm assuming that meant we were getting a screaming deal, because if we had some ridiculous amount that he was requesting at that time, or that we contracted with, I'm pretty sure there would have been a whole lot more interest in it. So I'm thinking he's probably been giving us a pretty reasonable deal, or there would have been a whole lot more competition for his service, for this particular city using that service.
Well, that's one thing you have to be aware of, is we are a small town. Even though we are growing, we do not have the finances. We don't have the revenue to hire a full-time attorney. We don't. And so we are going to be contracting our services. And so again, I feel like we have a very qualified attorney. I haven't met Nick yet, but from reading his resume, I feel like then we would have two very qualified attorneys, which we did with yourself and with Matt.
Curious, how old is Nick roughly?
He doesn't look it, but no, he's about 40, I want to say 46.
That's pretty dang young as far as I'm concerned.
And his resume doesn't even show. So he does cover as well as small cities, so he has that, and he's had that for a long time as well. He does Mona, so he kind of has those issues under his belt with the small cities, and then as well Kaysville. And he's gone up to the governor, I think 3 times for a judgeship, been on the short list. There's 3 attorneys that are on that short list. So he's just a very smart person.
Well, I'm just reading his agenda. It took me about 10 minutes. Or I mean his qualifications, basically. That it's totally impressive. And I'm not any kind of a legal mind, but there's a lot of stuff that he's involved in that, and a lot of these things actually probably would be very applicable to our city too. So I think him on board could do nothing but help us out.
Yes, we do need a motion. Just one quick clarification for all of us. You're probably aware, we call this the Third Amendment, and the reason is the First Amendment to the contract was when Matt Wilson's father passed away and he changed the name of the law firm. The Second Amendment then was when Matt was no longer our attorney, and then it went just to Darren. So this actually is the Third Amendment to our contract in order to have it now be Darren and Nick. So yes, Councilmember Hill, you're right. So if there's someone that would like to make the motion of approval of the amendment to our legal counsel contract.
So be it.
Okay, the motion is made by Councilmember Rapoletto. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second is made by Councilmember Hancock. Is this something we need to do a roll call vote?
Can you run back over that?
Yes, for finance, yes.
We need to do a roll call vote. Okay, so we are going to do that then. So we will start with Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Rapoletto,
Yes.
Councilmember Hancock,
Yes.
Councilmember Flowers.
Yes.
Okay, that covers. Thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate all you do.
Now I'm going back to be,
Okay. Okay, the next thing we have then is to move into a closed session. We need a motion to move. There are some things we needed to discuss.
actually, council, can we have a pause?
Oh, sure.
And Flowers, could I talk to you outside? Just a few minutes.
Is the popcorn popping?
We want some music.
Oh, the apricot tree.
He's doing a good job, yeah.
Hey, I want to talk about my $50.
Well, you know, nothing but we're doing Thursday nights to come hear my friends ramble.
Think of that. 10,000 was good, driving with BS, right?
Her, 30 years ago, they told her she had 3 months, and then she's.
Well, I think she beat that. How old is she?
77.
That's even older than me.
Hey, your backyard is in the slough too, huh?
Yeah, it's been some tough. Played in the Army group.
Yes.
I wish she hadn't gone there.
If they had muskrat in the toilet, so I know it went straight in there, man. We built a monkey bridge across at the Scouts, and we swing into that thing.
We used to go catch carp out there for the tomato and cherry.
about swimming in a slough. What's wrong with you? We all grew up in the boonies, drinking water.
Yeah, but how many of yours?
Such good immune systems.
How many of your ponds have direct sewer in them?
That's true.
Spring City probably
I took mine.
Sherry, I'm probably just gonna kill the recording.
Yeah, Kelly.
Yeah, I can say, you want to tell them we're going to have a pause and then a closed door and then we'll,
We
close.
need to have it on the recording stating who makes the motion to move into the closed door.
I'm going to kill your video.
I'll kill the video.
Okay. She can
Oh, I didn't think the video was even working.
Yeah, we got it. I got it going.
Well, you all have a good evening. What's that? There's a dopey chance to read. That's close. Hey, kinda. Welcome to all the reading. You guys should have brought that up. I don't know what the city council's doing up here, but. Huh? Are they? I don't know, but I want 99-cent read for in perpetuity, okay? You guys shouldn't, I mean, no public comment, I'm just saying. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you around.
Counselor, you're right to move on now
Yes,
then?
yes, please.
Okay, so we need to have someone make a motion to move into a closed session, and you need to read the discussion of the strategy on number 3 needs to be in your motion of why we would be moving into a closed session.
I make a motion to move into a closed meeting with a discussion of strategy sessions to discuss
pursuant to UCA 52-4-205, number 1 in parentheses and number C, or letter C in parentheses.
Okay, the motion was made by council member Ropalato to move into closed door meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second is made by council member Hancock. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we're going to move into a closed door meeting. There will not be any voting done after this, so after our closed session, we will just have an adjournment. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Recording stopped.
Our meeting.
So moved.
Okay, motion was
I
made.
second.
Was made by Councilmember Hill, seconded by Councilmember Rapoletto. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
I forfeit